Hello, everyone. Welcome to LinkedIn for Military, Defence and Emergency Services Personnel. My name is Sue Elson, and whether you're listening live or listening to the recording, I trust that today I'll be able to give you a lot of information that will be relevant to you and anybody you know who may also be in the services or has been in the services in the past. I'm going to run through these slides. I'm not going to read out everything that is on the slides, that's up to you, but I do encourage you to take notes as we go through because there'll be a lot of extra information included. I also invite you to have the LinkedIn app on your phone so I can show you a little quick tip there. And I hope to give you lots of awesome value and proactive action items that you can complete afterwards. So just for turning up, I'd like to share with you my latest offers, which is you can download all of these files. Anybody who's active in the chat, I will also email them to you. So that will hopefully encourage you to be active. Please pop any questions you have in the chat because it makes it much more interactive, much more fun rather than me just talking to myself. So please do that. If you would like to meet me in person this Saturday and on the third Saturday of every month up until July, I'm running 4-hour workshops on LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business, and that includes a copy of my 5th book, LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business. Now, you can also follow me on social media. So I will quickly pop these links in the chat. So you are welcome to follow me. And also, I would love a Facebook review, just one person from today to write me a Facebook review. That would be really appreciated. Every time I run one of these webinars, which is every month since October 2021, I write down the numbers. So these are constantly expanding. You can also see any of the other past webinars as well. Hello to Sherry, lovely to see you here, and thanks for stopping by in the chat there. Okay, so I'm the author of 5 books. As I said, this is my most recent one, LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business, and you can get them at sueelson.com/books or 120wayspublishing.com. And just so you know, my career started out in banking at Westpac in Adelaide, where I worked for 11 years, moved to Melbourne, got a job, found out I was pregnant, got sacked from the job, and basically haven't had a real job since 1994. I now have 2 lovely children, and I'm also a member of all these professional associations. My first website went online in 2001, newcomersnetwork.com, and I've got 120 Ways Publishing and my Sue Elson one. And if you would like to book some additional services, you can do that. But there's no selling in this webinar. It's literally educational information. So firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands from where we are all based. This presentation is for people of all backgrounds. I will be sending the slides and the video recording link out to everybody who's registered, and it will be on my website as well. You can leave your video camera off if you wish, and the microphones, so that we don't have any disturbances. But if you want to ask a question, just unmute and fire away. I'm going to assume there's a varied level of knowledge and you're in different spots in your lives, and there's heaps more information about me online. And I would like to encourage you to say thank you. My parents taught me it's always important to say thank you. It's about 10 hours work to bring this webinar to you. So that's the contribution I make. And if you just say thanks, I really appreciate it. It is designed for all genders, backgrounds, beliefs, and locations. Obviously, it's based on my personal experience. I have a brother who's in the Navy for about 10 years, a sister who's in the Navy for about twice that. I've spoken to a number of people in emergency services and defence for this presentation as well, to try and get sort of better quality insights. And so hopefully that will be helpful to you as well. You need to be aware of any social media policy that you must abide by. So, for example, I went to a Victorian Police event and I spoke to an officer there, and this officer told me he would get back to me, but he hasn't. But the Chief Commissioner of Police has a LinkedIn profile, but many of the other police officers do not. For security and other reasons. So please, if you are currently serving in a role, you need to find out whether it is possible or not for you to have a LinkedIn profile. I don't want to say, yes, you can have one if you cannot. So please just keep that in mind. It's designed to be educational and informative, and my goal is to help you as an individual, both right now in your life, but also after your life in the emergency services, military or defence force, or any other role that you might be in and you're moving on from. So just to get a little bit of engagement, I'd like you to put some letters in the chat. So the first letter I'd like you to put in, there'll be 2 letters. One of these, you're currently in service, currently in emergency services, previously in military defence or emergency services, you're consulting to them or other, and whether you're in Australia or overseas. So one of S, E, P, C or O, and one of A and O. And if you can just put your 2 letters in the chat, that will give me an idea of the types of people who are here, so that hopefully I can tailor it more effectively for you. So who's game enough to put their letters in? You know, we've got lots of CA, so consulting, and in Australia previously, and consulting. That's excellent. Great that you've done both. Others, mostly in Australia. Cool. Excellent. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll find this extremely beneficial. And as I said, please pop any questions you may have in the chat. You can also choose just to send the question to me, and I won't announce your name when I answer the question. So please feel free to do that as well. So heaps of extra resources, lots of other webinars I've run that you can access without logging in. You just click on the link, you can see the slides, you can see the video recording as well. So that's all there. I've got a blog, publications, presentations, podcasts, television. That's a page I created on my website last night. In September last year, I started appearing on Channel 9 as a career expert based in Melbourne. And this recording will be at that link later today. So some specific tips. I love to start off with stories and specific items for each particular group that I run this webinar for. So there is the opportunity to hibernate your LinkedIn profile whilst you're in active service. So let's say you're about to go into the police force or the military or whatever, and it's a condition of employment that you don't have a profile. Well, you can hibernate it. So the only person who can see anything that's there is you and LinkedIn, nobody else. Nobody can click a link and find you in any way. But I like this option because I like the idea of you keeping the relationships you've created before you join the service, because we don't want you to lose all those connections, because the day you come out, you know, you have to start from scratch again. So that is an option. It will be invisible to anyone, apart from, as I said, LinkedIn and yourself. I definitely do not recommend that you disclose any confidential information. So please do not ever include your date of birth on your LinkedIn profile. Some people working in government departments are not allowed to include their work email address on their social media accounts. So please keep that in mind as well. And you also need to set a good example for other people that you might work with or you've previously worked with, because that story can be told. My brother mentioned to me that you have received a lot of training in your roles, and many of you will not be able to get that type of quality of training in an external environment. But a lot of people don't understand what that training involves or the types of transferable skills that you may have. So you need to be able to describe that, and there's clearly some professionals here who can help you with that as well. So please keep that in mind. In my view, once you're out of these locations, or if you're allowed to do it when you're in these locations, you should connect with everyone you meet, both personally and professionally. And I'll show you how to do that on your mobile device. You do need to abide by any specific requirements that occur as a result of your current work role. And you need to remember that LinkedIn is a database, so it's only going to give you opportunities if you include details. Now, please do not include commercially sensitive, confidential, security sensitive information on your LinkedIn profile. You could say that you were doing project management when you might have been doing some high-tech security operation. It's still classified as project management. So think about describing things in a way that it describes what you were doing, but it doesn't describe the detail necessarily of what you were doing. And it's something that a civilian would be able to understand as well. LinkedIn is a network, so it enables you to maintain your relationships, find leads, follow up, and say thank you. And if you don't tell your story, how do you expect to be found? How do you expect to be able to sell what the value you offer? And how do you expect to be verified as well? There is lots of content that you can put on LinkedIn in your profile, in a company page, in a group, in posts, in articles, in newsletters, And all of that can be found in online search results, in Google, in Bing, in, ChatGPT, possibly in the future, who knows. And I also recommend that you consider connecting with others in your field, both locally and internationally. One of my clients was from Belgium and moved from Melbourne to Sydney. And because he had all of his Belgium experience and the country name Belgium mentioned on his LinkedIn profile, he got opportunities from a Belgian-based company who wanted to work with somebody who knew both Australian and Belgian culture. So keep that in mind. And again, describe your expertise in words that anyone could understand. It doesn't mean it's for a 2-year-old. It just means that the person typing in a search could find your skills and be able to understand what you're talking about. Now, the next thing I'd like to share is the importance of having personal relationships outside a service environment. Now, I have noticed that a lot of people with military defence backgrounds have a lot of their social needs met when they're in that environment. And then when they come out of it, they think that they'll be able to A, recreate it, or B, it will just automatically, happen, and it doesn't. So I believe it's very important for you to have personal relationships throughout your entire life. Those relationships will change. Just because you went to school together when you were 15 doesn't mean you've got anything in common when you're 45. That's fine. But there'll be other people who are 45 who you may have something in common with. So that's terrific. And I find that it's best to connect through hobbies and interests, because that way you're both connecting because you love tennis rather than because you were in the military or you went to a school or you come from a location or whatever. So connecting through your hobbies and interests is a really great way to meet people and form new friendships. You obviously need to learn civilian language and requirements. And it's also really important that you keep a record of what you've done throughout your career as you go along. Now, I've worked with a lot of people who've had 20, 30, 40, 50 years of work experience, and trying to remember what they did 30 years ago is really difficult. So please try and keep a record, even if you're not publishing it. Please keep a record of what you're doing. When I left the bank after 11 years, I had a 10-page resume. Now, obviously, I didn't get any job offers with a 10-page resume, but I converted it to a 1-page resume and I got 4 phone calls in one day. Now people don't use resumes, they use LinkedIn profiles. But because I had that 10-page resume, I've been able to go back and reflect on the experience I had in my banking career many years after, and I've used that information in applications for work and funding and proposals and all sorts of things. And if I hadn't recorded it, I would never have remembered that I had done all those amazing things in my banking career. You need to describe your service in a way that matches your intentions. So another person I worked with had been in the private sector, then went into a contract role in the military, and then was coming out. And whilst he had lots of great experiences, I think it was in the army, he found that it wasn't for him. He didn't like the chain of command. He didn't like the pressures. And although he had some amazing experiences, he was ready to get back out into civilian life. But the only problem was he was quite negative about his army experiences. And so I had to make it clear to him that you need to be able to describe what you want going forward. So focus on the fantastic things that you had in the army, the opportunities you got, the training you got, the skills you learned, and talk to those. So you can say, I started my career here, I went there, here's what I can bring to you now. Because if you sort of want to complain about your service or the challenges you faced or the difficulties, whatever, that's not going to help you in the job interview for the next position coming along. You also need to be aware of the differences in the civilian sector of funding, resources, opportunities, personal politics, chains of command, all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be very different. So when I went out into working on my own, I didn't have an IT department I could call and sort problems out. Fortunately, I've got Google now, and that solves a lot of my problems, but I just didn't have access to resources, information, anything that was going to be as accessible as it was when I was in a large organisation. So keep that in mind. Now, here in Australia, A lot of people feel very uncomfortable talking about their achievements. It is not bragging to say you did A, B, C, D, and E. It is bragging if you say you were the absolute best at A, you were the absolutely most fantastic at B, you were unbelievably awesome in C. I mean, that is bragging. So just describe what you've done, not so many adjectives. And beware of spending large amounts of money on purchasing a franchise or any other business opportunity. So a lot of people think, I've had training, I can apply skills, I'll get my own business and off I go. And so they may do some due diligence, but have they ever worked in a business? Have they ever had a franchise? Could they do a 1-month trial? What are the options before you make that kind of huge investment? Because you could find that getting out is much harder than getting in. And in the process, you lose a lot of money. Another person I worked with got a package from her work and spent $20,000 on a website that generated no income whatsoever. And she could have just started with a LinkedIn profile. So please preserve your cash, don't blow it, move forward in manageable steps and get some experience before you make a business decision. And help and resources are available. So here in Australia, you can get free career counselling services. The My Future website has a fantastic career assessment tool. There's lots of other resources online. These are just 2 that I've handpicked, but believe you me, there is help available if you need it, and I definitely encourage you to take it on. So why even bother with LinkedIn? Well, you're going to be Googled, and 75% of people will Google you before a job interview and 95% for a job offer. If you change your URL on your LinkedIn profile, which is the link to where your profile is, that will optimize your name in Google search results, unless, of course, your name is a very common name. That's a bit more difficult, but it will help people find you online, and then they kind of believe that you exist. I would also encourage you to think about getting your own name website. Now, I'm not going to beat you up if you don't have one. I didn't get my SueElson.com until 2012, so I've only had it 10 years, but I'm obviously a lot older than 10. So yeah, I do recommend it as a way of describing everything that you do. There's over 900 million members on LinkedIn in over 200 countries, over 12.4 million in Australia, and 59% of them are aged between 25 and 34. So it's kind of the place to be. And no job, enterprise, opportunity, business is secure, and we all need a network to survive in life. So it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to keep you employed as well. And relationships are what will drive that, not just technology. Technology is a tool, but it's only a tool in the toolkit. You still need those relationships as well. So again, reminder, please ask questions in the chat. I'm more than happy to help you with those. Now, my top 10 techniques are going to be based on what I believe are the most important, but also if you think you've already got a good LinkedIn profile, you can tick off and see how many of these you are doing now. So the first thing is to complete your LinkedIn profile in detail. And what I normally do is I recommend that when I start with clients that, sorry, this is a message that this guy just keeps sending me, so I'll just clear that. From the More button on your LinkedIn profile or anyone else's, you can choose to save your profile to PDF. Now, it doesn't have everything on it, but it is a good technique to do every time before you update your LinkedIn profile and after your profile, and save it to your computer. And I choose save as, and then I pop it in my folder. So I choose save as, and I put today's date back to front, so it sorts in date order. I put dashes in my file names so that it always appears in search results, because spaces sometimes join words and underscores join words and when you build websites and profiles. So now by looking at this file name, I know that that's what my profile looked like on the 12th of April 2023, and I can save it. So that's the first step. And the second one is from the Me menu. You can choose settings and privacy, and then data privacy, and then get a copy of your data. So what you do here is you press this download the largest data archive, you request it, LinkedIn will prepare it, they'll send you an email with a link, you click on the link, download the file, and then you've got a full record of everything that's on your LinkedIn profile and everything you've ever done and a list of all your connections. So then you can go through that and say, right, there's 10 people I really should be connected with that are not on this list. Let's go out and get those as well. So they're really important tips. You need to make sure your headline has all your keywords. I'll come back to that. Describe your achievements, and there's a little cheat sheet here as well. So you've got these slides, you can click on these links and go through it. Now, as I said earlier, you need to change your URL. So to do this, you just go to your LinkedIn profile, and on the top right-hand side, you will see Edit Public Profile and URL, and it's over here. You click the pen and you change it. Now, that's the gold standard if it's available. If that's not, you can put a dash in here. If that's not available, you can put a number on the end, or you can put your post nominals if you want, or you can put, you know, some other reference beforehand, like I say, Ms. Sue, or I could say Sue Jane, you know, my middle name, whatever. But you need to personalize it and save it. And that will optimize your name in Google search results. It looks a lot better on your resume than first name, last name, and a whole bunch of numbers and letters. And whilst you're here, you can also make sure that everything is turned on. The next one is coming up. We'll just go back to the slides. Is your headline. Now, every LinkedIn trainer will give you a different methodology for writing your headline. But I'm here to tell you that this is the #1 field on your LinkedIn profile. And if you've only got ex-army officer or something like that in there, the only jobs you're going to be found for is army officer. It's not going to help. Looking for work. Nobody's going to type in looking for work unless they're trying to sell you something. So the way I write it is I start off with a label, and I know you should label jars, not people, but this is so that every time I appear in the news feed, people remember what it is that I'm here for. Then I've put in a whole lot of keywords, and then at the end, I put in something about me personally. I have come up in search results for Dancer. Fortunately, nobody's asked me to dance for them, but that's just to show that I'm active and I've got other interests and, you know, I'm a human. So here's an example of one I prepared earlier. You could say that you're a logistics project manager and you use Agile, PMP, you're across supply chain, strategy, warehousing, transport solutions, stakeholder management, analysis and reporting, and you're a surfer. You can pop a little emoji in there. Now, I only put emojis at the end because anybody using assistive technology, that will just appear as gobbledygook. So if you'd like to learn more about that headline formula, and you can change it at any time, but this will increase the number of times you appear in search results. So it makes a difference. On your mobile device, you can click on your photo and add a video going for 30 seconds. You can add an audio pronunciation of your name, and you may be able to add this link in. I tried doing this yesterday for a client and it didn't work. So it could be a feature that's been removed. It's still on my LinkedIn profile. But if you have the opportunity to put a link to something important to you, please do that on your mobile device as soon as possible before it disappears. There is also, under the Open To button, you can say that you're open to work, and you can also add in that you provide services. Now, not as many people fill this in. So if you fill this one in, this can often lead to more opportunities as well. Now, I realize some of you only want a job. That's fine. But if you come up in search results, it could lead to a job. So that's worth doing as well. Now, there's heaps of different people that you can connect to. So I'll let you read through that in your own time. You can also find people through a Google Advanced Search. So if you were looking online for your friend and you typed in the search box here their name, you may or may not find them, because if they're not connected to you and they're not connected to someone else who knows you, it might not show in your search results. But if you do something called a Google Advanced Search, you can put their name in here. Let's say their name is Roger White. I don't know, I'm just making up a name. And you're pretty sure that they're in Sydney. And you want to look at the website linkedin.com. This is going to look through the entire LinkedIn database and find Roger White, who's in Sydney. And there he is. He's at the ABC. He's there's lots of Roger Whites in Sydney, but you get the idea. So likewise, if you wanted to meet another logistics project manager in LinkedIn in Sydney, you could use this Google Advanced Search for that as well. It's unlimited. You can do as many searches as you like. So that could be a great networking technique as well. So it's important to also be a member of a professional association. And I'm a great advocate for these. I pay a fortune in membership fees for, I think it's 6 memberships I pay for at the moment. I believe that if you're in an area of specialty, you should aim to be a member of that professional association to keep yourself up to date, to get access to additional information, resources, opportunities, jobs boards, you name it. There's heaps of things. But there's also multiple ways to add that information to your LinkedIn profile. So you can add it in licenses and certifications, you can add it in organizations, and you can add it in your contact info as well as your post nominals, which will go after your name. So keep that in mind also. Now, once you've got your LinkedIn profile fully completed, up to date, all the bells and whistles added in, you need to think about what you're going to do online. Now, the first thing to do is engage with other people's content. People love it when you like their stuff. So scroll through the news feed, give out a couple of likes, whatever. The second stage is you can find something fabulous to share, so you curate it. And the third thing is you can create your own content. So when you click start on a post, it brings up this screen, and then you get 3 dots, and then it gives you these 8 choices of other things you can add to the news feeds. If you'd like to learn more about that, just click on that link and away you go. Now, in terms of engagement, even if you are running a really successful business, I would suggest 1 piece of content per week, and the rest of the time just engage with other people's content, your suppliers, your referrers, the people who love your work, your friends. Like, just keep those relationships going. That will get you far further than just speaking all the time. What it shows is that you are listening as well. And the algorithm determining what you see and how well your content gets spread is going to be based on that engagement ratio and how often you have listened as well as spoken. Now, I have a LinkedIn company page as well as a personal profile. And the benefit of that is I've got 732 followers. And every time I put something out as Sue Elson, I put it on my company page as well. So people can click this post thing and see everything I've done. I also list all my events, so you can see all the events I've done previously. You can see the videos I've uploaded directly. And I've also got this sort of lead generation button on here as well. So all of these things are very helpful. I could also add in new sections about the workplace module, the commitments section. And if you're visiting a company page and you would like to work for that organization, you can also click on there and say you'd like to be considered for future jobs there. So, that can be helpful if you're trying to attract people to an organization where you're now working. So, quick reminder, don't forget to pop your questions in the chat. Now, there are lots of settings you can change in the back end of your LinkedIn profile. And I recommend that you turn off people also viewed, because you don't want someone to land on your LinkedIn profile and see the people who looked at Sue also looked at all these people and takes them off somewhere else. You can turn that one off. You can turn on creator mode. And if you want to learn more about that, you can follow that link. You can turn off autoplay videos. You can decide whether you want to be seen when you look at someone else's profile. So I like to have people know that I've looked at their profile. So I leave myself turned on. But if I was working on behalf of a client, there's no point the person knowing that I've looked at their LinkedIn profile. So for the duration of that visit, I'll go anonymous. So that's another option you've got in there. And as I said before, you can hide your LinkedIn profile at any time. You can also hibernate your LinkedIn profile if that's necessary. Now, statistics. There's a social selling index that you can click on and find out what that is, which basically shows how you compare to others in your area of specialty. There's a new dashboard analytics page now, and there's a spreadsheet you can download via my latest offer, so you can keep a record of your stats. So if you are not increasing your number of connections, you're not getting at least 100 views per 90 days and at least 50 appearances in search results. And I'll show you where these are. So up here, analytics and tools, and it says I've had 1,400 people look at me in the last 90 days, and I've appeared in 608 search results. Now, this number is for 90, this is for 7 days. This number needs to be over 100, and this number needs to be over 50. And that way you know that your LinkedIn profile is working for you. And if it's not, there are some tweaks that can be made. Okay, so if you keep your stats in a spreadsheet, it's real-time numbers. You can just check it every month, 3 months, whatever, and then you know how you are progressing. So how can you use LinkedIn? Well, as I said before, you can engage with content. And when you hover over the like button, you can use the thumbs up, the celebrate, the support and care, love it, insightful, and funny. These are your options. Now, if you just do the like, that's pretty basic. But if you do one of these others, it's more likely to help the person go viral. And also, if you've got a great friend on LinkedIn and you want to see every time they do something, there's a little grey notification bell that you can click on for pages and profiles, and then that will help you see what they're doing. And it's more likely for you to see that content in your news feed. You can also search. So here I've done a search for heart surgeon. And it's just going, as soon as you type it in and press search, it will then give you the opportunity to look for that query in all of these sections of LinkedIn. But as I said before, it is limited to who you're connected to. So if you want to go next level, you can do that Google Advanced Search that I recommended before. You can also do lots of other things on LinkedIn. So just like the other platforms have hashtags, hashtags work on LinkedIn. You can use @mentions or tagging, that works on LinkedIn. If you upload a video, it can automatically create captions that you can edit so that anybody using assistive technology or somebody who doesn't want to have the sound on can see the captions. You can also create in a program called canva.com carousels, and you just put lots of squares together and then people can scroll through it. You can save a PowerPoint presentation to PDF and then it acts like a slideshow on LinkedIn. So there are lots of different types of content and strategies. And if you'd like to learn more about those, you can follow those, including how to make people stop scrolling and engage with your content. Because if they do, it's more likely to travel and be seen by more people. I do recommend that you update your LinkedIn profile on a regular basis, at least every year, if not every 6 months. And you can also list some positions in either experience or voluntary experience. So another thing that I'll quickly show you is, let's say you're not working right now. So what would happen is, if I looked at your LinkedIn profile, it would say that this job ended, I don't know, let's say in March, right? And then there'll be no job left here. So the algorithm favors people who are currently working. So what you could do is you could add in a position, and it's not lying. You can say career research, and you could say logistics project manager or whatever type of role it is. And you just type in the word various, but you do not choose anybody. You just say various and where you want to work. Let's say I want to move to Sydney and I'm happy to work. Well, I'll leave that out. I'm not too fussed about that. So I'll say that we started that in April of 2023. And then what I can do is, depending on what industry it is, I change that. And then I fill in all the details. Currently doing additional training and research into roles in logistics project management, and then I list all the skills I have, etc., etc., etc. I add in the skills here. I can link to something of relevance, could be a YouTube video or something or another else, your resume, whatever, and save it. So now what happens is the algorithm believes that you're in a current job. Now, when a human looks at your LinkedIn profile, they'll see, oh, right, they're only doing career research. Yes, I can contact them now for a position. So that's one of my favorite things to recommend to people who are not currently working, but would like to be considered for a position that is aligned to, you know, what they're specifically looking for, and they know that they're looking for. Now, add connections. On your mobile device, you can connect with people. So let's say you're meeting someone face-to-face, or you're even doing a presentation. You can do a screenshot and pop that up on your presentation. But on your mobile device, you press in the search box, and then you press the dots on the top right-hand side. And then you choose scan and turn on your camera, because there's your code. So what you would then do is you would go up to the other person's screen, because they've got their code on the screen, and you would scan it. And their profile will then appear on your screen. So there'll be a big blue button, ignore that, look for the 3 dots, and then you choose personalize invite. And you say, nice to meet you at, you know, wherever you met them. Let's connect, and send off the invitation. So from now on, everybody you meet in person, professionally or personally, you can invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn, because the bigger your network, the more security you have with whatever you're doing from now on. I mean, if you don't like them, you don't have to connect with them. But if, you know, there could be a value in some way, shape or form in the future, fantastic. Also, remember, this is great for younger people to do who are just starting out in their careers as well. Now, you also need to set some goals. I had one of my clients who created a spreadsheet, and he put up these recruiter names and how often he contacted them, and when he gave them a bottle of wine, and when he needed to follow up again. You can also, as I said before, fill in this providing services page. It enables you to pop in a picture and lots more service details, etc. So set some goals, because if you don't set any goals, it's very easy to kind of do nothing. So just keep that in mind. You must abide by any social media policy of anywhere that you work. So obviously they don't have the right to tell you you must delete your LinkedIn profile, as far as I know, although that could be different for government and military. But you know, general employers, I did some work for a law firm, and he said if they work for me, they have to delete their LinkedIn profile. I said, well, unless you put that in the offer for the job, you can't, you know, do that afterwards. So think about, try and find what the social media policy is, and make sure you do abide by it. Some industries, like a psychologist, they're not allowed to connect with their clients, for example. So just keep these rules and guidelines, you know, just know what they are. There might be a code of ethics that you have to abide by as a member of an association. So make sure you look that up. Before you quit your job, connect with all your friends there. And if you are in the unfortunate position of having to let someone go, there are ways to help make that transition easier. So if you have lost your job, and, you know, it took me 6.5 years not to be angry about being sacked when I was pregnant, you know, read that article and think, well, they didn't do that, they didn't do that, and no wonder I'm angry. But also think about some of those strategies if you do have to let someone go. Now, the next thing you can do is consider writing articles on LinkedIn. It is a very powerful publishing platform, and a number of articles I've written are #1, page 1 of Google search results. So make sure it's something you're happy to have on the front page of the newspaper, because I have been quoted from some of my articles. I was even contacted by Google for an article I wrote about paying job candidates for interviews, and they were implementing my suggestions, and look, I had a face-to-face with people from Google about that. So it can be amazing. So yeah, consider that. Now, if you decide you are going to set up your own little enterprise, this is something I go through with all my enterprise clients, where I talk to them and say, look, LinkedIn is fabulous. I love LinkedIn. But the only thing you actually own, because you pay for it, is your website. So this is always the #1 spot to put your content. But when a robot comes in, a search robot comes in and looks at your website, it decides whether or not your website is good based on whether you have a good social media presence, if you've got reviews, if you've got listings on other websites, if you've got links on other websites. It checks for all of these things to decide whether people should come to your website or not. So if you are going to go down that path, please remember that you kind of need a little bit of everything, not just a website. Also, if you would like to learn more, obviously there's heaps of content on my website, heaps of webinars you can watch, But if you are a student or you have a local library card in Australia, you can get free access to LinkedIn Learning, and you can have 50 micro credentials added to your LinkedIn profile. And this shows that you're willing to learn and you've done something recently. So this could also be an option. If you do the 1 month free LinkedIn, you also get access to LinkedIn Learning. But remember, you have to give your credit card to sign up, and they will keep charging you after the 1 month if you don't cancel it. So you can't say, oh, but I'm not using it, bad luck. You have to cancel it after that 1 month if you don't want to keep being charged. By the way, I don't believe you need LinkedIn Premium unless you want to do those things. I only got it 2 years ago, and up until then, I always used the free account. So how can you do all this stuff on LinkedIn in 20 minutes a week? Well, I suggest you log in and check what's going on in the news feed, check out your notifications, see who's invited you to connect and respond to those. Look at your VIPs, the people who are most important to you. You might have them saved in your internet browser so you can check out what they're doing, your special connections, your school, your employer, your enterprise. You can check that for a couple of minutes. Edit or update your own profile if you've got anything that you've changed since last week. Put something out in the news feed and check your statistics, and away you go. So you've listened for 40 minutes. And that's fantastic, but you will only get value if you pick 3 things to do. So maybe you were able to do a couple of things during the session. I would suggest that if you're going to do something, please do it within either 3 hours or 3 days, because the stats show that if you don't do something within 3 days, you probably won't do anything at all. So it's lovely to chat to you, but no change. So please consider doing something. As I said, I would really love a Facebook review. My next webinar is going to be on LinkedIn for real estate and commercial property professionals on Wednesday, the 10th of May at the same time. You can register for that on LinkedIn or on Eventbrite. If you register on Eventbrite, you can also order a book. These are, oh, something's gone wrong there. That's the wrong information. Anyway, these are the ones coming up later in the year. So I'll have to change that slide on the website. Reminder again, those free downloads are available, and my next live event will be this Saturday for 4 hours. I only have one other person booked in, and it will be a maximum of 4 people. So if you'd like to join me in Melbourne this Saturday, 9:30 to 1:30, we'll actually do the work on your LinkedIn profile and get things happening for you. Again, you can follow me on social media. I'll pop those links back in the chat, and there's my books, so you can check out those. And if you'd like to write a review, you can just scan your phone over either one of those, or the Google review or the follow on social media. Then you can just click, click, click on your phone. You don't have to type anything in. That's another option for you. So I'm going to be turning the camera on in a moment, or as in the slides off, so that you will appear on the screen. So if you don't want to appear on the recording, you are welcome to go now. I'm more than happy to answer any questions directly if you don't want to ask them publicly, but I'd also like to open the floor and hear from you, any of your experiences that are relevant. And Jack's already done a lot of my suggestions. Well done, Jack. That's great news. So really pleased to hear that. It's good confirmation that you are on the right track. Patrick said ADF members and their partners can be referred to free transition support with specialist career transition provider Right Management. Talk to a Defence Transition Centre via that link. Okay, I'll pop that on the website as well, so that anybody wants to follow up with that, they can do so. Also, Mark says he's got some work to do. That's no worries at all. That's what it's here for. This is a free presentation, and I'm much happier if you get some value out of it than if you don't. So I will stop sharing my screen, and that will bring you all up on there. Whoops, it's just go away there. Stop share. No, it's trying to get me to do something else at the same time. Okay, so there we all are. Feel free to turn your camera on, unmute your microphone, say hello. Jack, there you go. Nice and smiling face there. What's been most helpful to you from this presentation?
The headline thing, actually.
Good, excellent. Have you got some ideas of keywords that you can pop in?
Yeah, I was just checking other colleagues I'd work with to see what they had.
Yeah, and what you're going to notice is now that you know all this new information, you'll be looking at people's profiles like, oh, they haven't done their headline. Oh, they haven't got their video on. Oh, they haven't changed their URL. You know, hopefully you'll be able to see that when you look at others and pinch and borrow ideas from everywhere. You know, I do, and all of us LinkedIn trainers, we often share tips and tricks with one another. So, you know, we're a really good community of professionals who like helping people. So there's plenty of other people around. So well done.
Thanks very much for that.
You're most welcome, Jack. Mark, you popped up on the screen. Would you like to add something to the conversation?
Thanks. It does. It explains some of the people that I would regard as mentors and how they go about their business and what they're doing in the background. And as I said, makes me think that I need to do a lot more and do a lot more exploring behind those 3 breadcrumbs and see what's in there.
Yes, well, there's lots of links in the presentation, which you can download from the website. As I said, I'll just fix up that last slide where the previous links to other presentations were not listed correctly. But there's a lot of tweaking you can do. And when you start digging deeper, you'll see more keywords. And one of my articles is about, you know, finding the keywords that you can incorporate. So I might pop that in the show notes as well, so that you can check out where to find some of those words, because yes, you can get it from colleagues, but you can also, there's other places like job ads and job descriptions, and My Future lists what is typical in this type of role. So if you're trying to switch careers, you can say you're studying X, Y, and Z. So the example I like to give was years ago, I was on the RSVP dating website. I've given up dating websites, but anyway, that's another long story that Patrick already knows about. And I said, I'm not interested in anyone who likes horse racing or gambling, right? So what happened? All these people who like horse racing and gambling were sent to me, because the algorithm saw horse racing and gambling. It didn't see not interested, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we've got to use the words that are really relevant to, you know, what we're trying to achieve. And you can say aspiring, because when the person reads it, they'll say, oh, they want to be that, but they're not that now, but they come up in that search result now. So you're not lying, you're using the tech to your advantage. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good. And hello, Patrick. Lovely to see
Hi.
you from sunny Queensland.
Hi, Sue. How are you? Good to see you too.
Yes.
There's a host of things I could add, but I think with the keyword thing, I'll just limit it to that. Try and imagine that while we're talking today, guys, your next hiring manager has just taken a resignation from someone. There's a host of different things they might do. One of them is searching an internal database. So hanging question there, have you got your resume in the internal database? And has it got the right keywords in it? The second thing they might do is look at LinkedIn to try and find a potential candidate. And LinkedIn, if you like, is a replica or facsimile of any internal database. So if you can learn how to come up higher in the search results on LinkedIn using those keywords, you transfer that into your resume and just keep going and going and going. The challenge as humans, I think, is that we express ourselves subjectively. You know, I'm a career coach, but are they the keywords that someone's going to use if they're looking for help? Yeah, they might be more likely to use the word recruiter because of the dominance of recruiters in the marketplace. So try to be objective about your keywords and use the words that you think a technical, someone who understands your technical capability would use to find a candidate. So thanks, Sue, for today. Lots to get through there, guys. Don't be too daunted by it. Small steps, just do something every day.
Yeah, I actually say to people when they're looking for work, it's 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. You cannot look for a job 8 hours a day. Like it's just, it's not possible. But if you can focus for that 2 hours on the things that are going to work, because the skills to get a job are very different to the skills to do a job. So if you're doing a job, yes, you can do that for 8 hours, but yeah, finding a job is a different skill set. So hopefully we've given you some tips on that today.
And so I look at it simply, sorry to go on, you know, I could talk about LinkedIn all day like you can.
Yes.
3 opportunities for you. Improve your potential to get discovered, research your targets, make successful approaches. And successful approaches is about asking people for advice and insights, not necessarily about a job.
Oh, yeah, very true. And Patrick and I go a long way back because Patrick represented me in Adelaide as part of Newcomers Network. And yeah, it's great to have his tips as well. And Naman, I saw you pop up earlier. You able to have a quick hello?
Yes, of course. I'm not from this industry, but again, it's a lot of knowledge to get from you, Sue, and thanks very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. And Larry's mentioned he's already chosen his 3 out of 3, so that's pretty exciting. So well done. Any final questions, either in the chat or just unmute? You can fire away. No, we're all done. Well, we've been very efficient today. I did start on time. I knew if it was anything to do with the military, I needed to be on time. So there's no excuses for starting at 12:01 today. So hopefully you've got something of value out of that. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying to the end. And I wish you every success on LinkedIn. And if you've got a moment to write a Facebook review, I would really appreciate it, because I've learned recently on Bing, which is a search engine provided by Microsoft, it is incorporating artificial intelligence into search queries. And because it's a competitor to Google, it doesn't include Google reviews in search results. So it requires me to get Facebook reviews if I want to appear up there. So that's why I've put in a special request for Facebook reviews. So thank you again, and bye for now.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
Cheers.